I know I've obviously been gone for a while, and I don't want this to kind of take away from the main point of the video, but I'll at least let people know what's been going on since people have questions. If you don't know, I recently got married back at the end of September, and so I was gone for a couple weeks there. I came back. I had a family member who recently passed away. I had to address that for about a week, went and visited family. Yes, I know I want to continuously post content. I promise you guys, I'm getting to the point of where I'm there. I'm going to post more content, but the wholesale program, it's taken off more than I kind of expected. In the month of September in the wholesale program, we did roughly around $250,000 in sales. The previous month, for August, we did about 150,000. I didn't think we'd ever be able to grow that fast, that short of time. And I said, there's no way this is going to be scalable, right? October, as a program, we did $375,000 in sales. Obviously, I hate that it takes away from the content, but ultimately at the end of the day, right? The content is something I more or less do because I enjoy it. I enjoy the community and I enjoy the people around it. And obviously it gives others opportunities for me to talk about stuff like this on ways in which you're able to pursue your own personal passions, whether it be full-time, being a PokeTuber or a Poke investor or collector, or part-time, whatever that looks like for you, right? But for myself, it was one of those things where I had a lot of personal things come up, and then I also had a lot of things that I needed to address when it came to the business growth in such a short period of time, because I did not anticipate it to be as quick as it was. And so I have gotten to a point now where we most recently just hired someone for the first full-time employee, and he's going to be stepping in on doing a lot of the behind the scenes work, because when we were doing on average a week about 1 pallet, and that number shot up to about 6 pallets a week for about a month straight, it was a lot. And my wife is running the business with me, and she can easily do like a pallet or 2 by herself. But once you start upping it to 3 pallets here, 4 pallets here, and then we still have the shop that we have to also address the large amount of shipments we're getting there. It took away some time from me having to post content. But now that we've gotten better with adding on more people to help, we've gotten better with increasing the automations within the way in which we can go about shipping out in higher volume. I promise you guys, I'm back on track to making it to where I'm not going to try and miss a beat whatsoever. I'm going to come and post the content you guys want, because ultimately at the end of the day, that's important. I want to start taking an effort to go and do trips to go visit Comic-Con and Collecticon and CardCon, anything that has to do with events. That's something that I really want to also take an effort to go and do over the next year or two. It's something that's important to me and really growing the channel as a whole. And of course, as always, if you guys ever have questions about the program, because obviously it is a big part of my life at this point, considering how big it's grown, please feel free to let me know. And links down in the description below for the Discord if you have any questions. We just added some more spots for the holidays. We're doing a little bit of a promotion where it's $20 cheaper. It was supposed to be a Black Friday thing, but I was obviously gone for the whole month of November, so I wasn't able to exactly advertise it since we closed down the Patreon spots and put it on the beta stage of our website. So I do apologize for that, because people were like, hey, when's it gonna happen? And I didn't even put the link down for people to join, so I'll make sure to do that correctly in this video. But feel free to, of course, reach out to me if you have any questions before anything. But there's a lot going on behind the scenes that I'll talk about some of it. I'll not talk about some of it because it is personal, but ultimately I'm excited to be back, and I hope you guys enjoy the content. In terms of the overall video title itself, I'm obviously gonna say why you're wasting your time investing in Pokemon. And people are gonna say, Eli, are you saying you shouldn't be investing in Pokemon? No, that's not what I'm saying. That's what this whole channel's about. That's the name of the channel is PokemartUSA. Obviously, being gone for a while, people are going to say, he must be quitting. That's why he's been gone for so long. No, I'm just here to let people know that when it comes to the conversations that I've had with many, many different people, the biggest problem that is not being factored in is the amount of time that you're wasting, or the amount of money you could be making when it comes to investment strategies. So what I mean by this, well, perfect example. There has been an absolute ton of reprints that have been going on lately. It has been reprints for Crown Zenith ETBs, 151 ETBs, Ultra Premium collections, multitudes of different items that have been reprinted into the ground. I hear people saying, Eli, I bought Crown Zenith back when it was pre-selling for around 40 bucks. It got all the way up to $60 on TCG Player. I think I'm just going to double down with this reprint and I'm going to buy some more. Although that's not the worst strategy by any means, because obviously there's dollar cost averaging, I would make the argument that the supply that you bought at that $40 price point and prices of the Crown Zenith ETB were selling for 60. Obviously, if you want to sell it locally, for cheaper, you could probably for around 50 bucks. I would sell it. And now people might say, well, I'm looking at this as a long-term investment. There's no point of me wanting to sell it now. I'm not really thinking about it because of what could ultimately happen in the next 5 to 10 years is what I'm more interested in it. And I think that that could work to some extent, but I think you'd be foolish to think that way in a broader term because you're missing out on wasting a ton of your time and a ton of your money. Because ultimately at the end of the day, if you got in at the price of around $40, and yes, that might be crazy to say, but it was around $40 on pre-sale for Crown Zenith ETBs, you spent, where are we right now? It's been over a year now since the release of the set, pre-sale wise, I should say. If you want to be conservative, we can say 11 months that you had the opportunity to sell the item while it hit its peak point of $60. A reprint is coming, more supply is coming, prices are going to drop. Think of it in terms this way. If you don't sell your product right now and price is correct, you just wasted 10 to 11 months of your time, of your purchase point, and waiting to see that price go up and then it crash again. And so if you're going to want to potentially, hypothetically speaking, sell again at that price point of 60, we don't know how much longer you'd have to wait. That could be 6 months, it could be a year, it could be 2 years, who knows, right? As prices are going to come down for product. You want to always be aware of the situation when it comes to learning to take profits and not leaving money on the table, even if you're not selling and you're hodling, because you can't lose money if you don't sell. But that's just not the reality of the situation, because I would argue that even more important than that is your time. And time is something you're not going to be able to get back. And so if you don't jump on those opportunities, then you're going to miss out on then taking that additional, 15, 20, 30% profit that you could have made, hoping for more, but obviously it's a short-term return. You could have then made that money, and then when the prices drop, go back in at a lower price point with more liquidity because you took your profits and reinvested it, right? It's kind of like one of the big things I talk about in the wholesale program, because we had the Crown Zenith ETBs pre-selling in our program for low $30 in ETB, like $300-ish for a case. If you said to yourself, I bought in at around the $300-ish price point, or the, $400-ish price point, and then you sold at $600 and rebought it back in at that price point, you could have incrementally, depending upon how much you invested initially. Let's take a mock example, right? Let's say that you had $1,000 and you were buying the ETPs at 40 a piece out the door, right? Then ultimately that's going to yield you about 25 ETBs in total. If you, after shipping and fees, or let's say you sold locally, just out the door, you sold it for $50 each. So $10 a unit, 25% profit. That's going to be 25% of your initial investment. It's $1,000, now $250. And of course, going off the price point of what you could see in the program, you got it again, we'll say at $35, right? That would have yielded you roughly an additional 7-ish ETBs that you just got for free off of selling it and then rebuying it again lower. right? And now maybe this is an example that doesn't apply to everyone, because obviously not everyone's going to be able to buy the ETBs for in the low 30s or $35. So we'll give a more broad example that I think is also important to look at, which is the TCG Player Direct program. A lot of people don't like the idea of the direct program because they say to themselves, Eli, 50% is so steep for fees when it comes to going and selling my cards, when I can go do it myself just with envelopes, not having to ship it to TCG Player. And it's only going to be 13% fees. So what I have to pay for the materials, there's a 99-cent, shipping fee that's going to cover that. Well, although that may be true in theory, right? You also have to consider the fact of the matter, which is if I am going to sell a 5-cent card, and that 5-cent card is going to require me to ship it in an envelope, package it up in a penny sleeve, package it up in a top loader or whatever else you want to protect it with, then, cut out the overall address, put it on the envelope itself. That process could take you anywhere between a minute to 2 minutes just to do that. Versus you have a direct order, you take that 5-cent card from your inventory, you put it next to the rest of the cards going to the direct order. Takes you no more than a couple seconds. What do you value yourself's time's worth, right? Do you think that for a 5-cent card, it should take you no more than a couple of seconds to ship out? Or do you think it should be no more than a couple of minutes? Even if you say to yourself, right, you're making money off the stamps, right? Hypothetically speaking, for this 5-cent card, you would have to be making enough money to ultimately justify the general time it's going to take for you to ship out these envelopes. Because let's say you're making like 20 cents because of the price you're charging for shipping, right? And then you have a 5-cent card. So it's going to take you 25 cents and it takes you a minute. We'll be conservative. 25 cents a minute is ultimately not the best way of going about valuing your time, because that's going to come out to $15 an hour. And I think most people would value your time greater than that. And okay, everyone's like, well, what's the alternative, Eli? I just go 50% of my fees. Well, that's not profitable. You need to stop thinking in terms of overall percentage margin, and you need to start thinking about what's the amount I can sell and make within a certain time frame, right? If you're in a situation where you can sell 100 units of a specific item, right? And you can make $1 off of that item. And let's say that it ultimately takes you 4 hours to sell that specific product, just for the sake of this argument, right? But you can now sell 1,000 units of a separate item that is valued at 1/10 of it, right? So you're making the same amount, but it's going to take you half as long to go in and do it. You're making double the money, because you're now starting to say to yourself, okay, instead of me making $100 in the first example, because 100 items for $1, it takes me 4 hours, averaging roughly around 25 an hour. But instead, I'm now spending 2 hours instead to make $100. That's 50 an hour. Things like that need to be taken into consideration, even if in theory the margins themselves may seem drastically thinner. It's not about how much you're making in terms of general margin. It comes down to how much time are you really spending in doing all of this. And this is something that needs to be considered, because a lot of people, I feel like, are truly wasting their time when it comes to investing in Pokemon product and not learning to play the waves, which is something I talk about. People are wasting their time when it comes to the value of singles and flipping them or getting them graded or selling bulk. You have to always consider your time when taking these things into consideration, right? Because there could be an opportunity, right, where you go in and you buy a collection, and that collection is valued for yourself at around a 100% marginal return. But it's ultimately, let's say you bought it for $1,000, and the marginal return after shipping, after fees, we'll make it simple, is $1,000. But this collection is so big that it's going to take you several weeks to just break down, list it, sell it all. How does the numbers break down, right? Is it worth it? A good example in my own personal life, and I'll actually be doing a video on this here shortly because everyone's been asking about it forever. is we have our own bulk operation that we do in the back. And one of the websites that we use a ton when it comes to figuring out what's the best items to buy is Mox Alpha. I haven't shied away from them when it comes to talking about how they're very useful for learning what items are good to buy for specifically Magic bulk, but they recently introduced Pokemon, so you can use them for that as well. But ultimately, as a business, I don't discriminate. Pokemon, Magic, I'm going to try and find ways to make money. There was a specific item that was being flash sold on one of my distributors, and the item had 40% margin using Mox Alpha's equation. But the problem is, and this is a learning curve for myself as I continue to delve into the world of mass volume, because for a while when it came to my bulk, I was realistically only selling about a couple thousand cards a month. Now we're going about 50 to 100,000 cards a month is where we're at a point of selling. So it's a learning curve. And with that, I was like, man, look at the margin on this specific item. You could make so much money doing it. But I didn't factor in that with this specific item, the amount of cards I had to sell in order to create that profit was 5 times greater than that of the other items that I would usually sell for around 10% less. So I say to myself, okay, well, what matters to me more? 10% more profit, but it takes me twice as long? Or 10% less profit, but when you do the math, it's taking me way less time to go about selling these items and the time it takes for me to break down these items. I mean, it was something that I didn't really consider because, we've gotten a lot of our machines. Our Roka is one we've had for a while now, but we just recently got a fizz batch. And like I said, I'll make a video on that showing you guys our operation at some point. And it's been great, but I'm still allocating resources to keep those machines running that could be used for other such things. And so my time to turn over now is drastically less thereof because the value of the card or the perception of the value of the card that I am now sorting through the machines is much greater, because if I'm sorting 1,000 cards in this example that are valued at 5 pennies versus I'm sorting, 500 cards valued at 10 pennies, all of a sudden, the amount of time I'm having to run these cards through the machines and they're worth less, it's just not making sense, even if I'm not having a human operate it, because that is still allocated time that could be used to sort specific cards or other cards. And that's why a lot of other people, such as RNG Games, shout out to him, they love to have price floors on cards that they like to sort out, right? Because ultimately, at the end of the day, they say to themselves, sure, I could make money off of selling 15-cent cards. I could make money off of selling 20, 25-cent cards, but it's just not there because the amount of time I am wasting by selling these cards. I'd much rather go take those cards, put them in bundle lots, sell them off in like 1,000 counts, and say, it took me about 10 minutes to do this. Sure, I'm making 50% less, but I'm also saving myself a ton in time. And so the math almost equates to me actually making the equivalent, but I'm able to now allocate my resources and my time to making more money elsewhere, right? And so factoring those things in, it's extremely important. And so if there's one thing you guys take away from this video, right? Like I said before, whether it have to be about, learning to take profits and not just always considering the fact that you're not losing money when you're not selling at a loss, because that's ultimately not true. You're still losing your time. Whether it be taking away from the fact of the matter that, hey, maybe the direct program is better than it seems, because ultimately when I'm selling my bulk operation, I'm wasting a lot of time, more than I realize, when it comes to shipping out these envelopes, right? Or whether it be just any general operation of buying collections, flipping singles, sending in cards for grading, whatever this may be applicable to you, I want you guys to be able to take away from this, start tracking your time. Start really seeing how efficient you are when it comes to your operations. Start seeing that when you do go in and dollar cost average, how much time it took for that specific item to get to that price point before you did ultimately see the price crash, right? Was it 6 months? Was it a year before the price went down? That ultimately, if you sold at the top, you could have made money doing it. How much time did it take you to sell that specific product, right? Because that's also another thing to take in consideration. Just consider the time when it comes to doing all of these things, no matter what facet of the industry of making money you are, when it comes to Pokemon product and other trading card games. Because the last thing I want you guys to do is be wasting your time thinking you're making more money than you actually are, because you're just not valuing your time. Hopefully you guys found value out of today's video. I want to once again thank you all so much for supporting the channel. As always, if you want to help push this video up, make sure to leave a like, comment down below, and subscribe to the YouTube channel. And then as far as the program, as I've mentioned before, link is down in the description below for that when it comes to the way in which you're able to get access to wholesale prices. We're recently switched over from Patreon to our website, so the link might be a little bit different. And then with that, we also are doing a holiday special. So if you want to take advantage of that, we did drop the price down by 20 bucks. So highly recommend you guys check that out. But as far as it goes, that is all for today's video. I will see you guys all on Wednesday. Peace.